Well, good morning, everybody. Well, the big story of the week is the headline would be, phew, it's over. So Clarkstown and the Palisades Mall finally end their very long, protracted court battle. So what this means is we know back in November that the town of Clarkstown held a referendum for voters to decide whether or not the mall would be allowed to expand into 250,000 square feet of unused space that it has on its fourth floor. That it took a long time for town officials to I'm going into this background for a reason, to make that decision to hold that referendum. One really must credit Councilman Don Franchino for leading the way, and there was a lot of hesitation and a lot of backroom wrangling over whether or not to hold that referendum, which ultimately, released the mall to free up their hands, sort of, unshackle them to move forward in whatever direction they're going to move forward in. And that is, that's part of the story that remains a big question mark. But nevertheless, the referendum was held, and voters finally, actually 60% to 30% overwhelmingly said, yes, let's take these shackles off the mall, let them expand if they must, and reinvent themselves. Because I think that everybody can see that we're in a time where malls do not have the same vitality, and they need to rethink who they are. So about a month or so ago, Clarkstown sent a letter, their legal counsel sent a letter to the judge in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals saying that really this lawsuit was moot, that the mall got its referendum and that there was no reason to continue to see the suit through. The curious thing was that we did not see the Palisades Center immediately respond to the court. So for the last month, there's been a sort of backroom betting going on as to, well, what's going to happen here? Is the Palisades going to, the Palisades Mall, are they going to continue to come after Clarkstown for, are they going to try to see the suit through and potentially look for damages and attorney's fees, or are they going to end this thing once and for all? And I know that this was a concern for Supervisor Homan, because he felt that it would sort of come back to bite him politically, if the mall continued to pursue the litigation. So at the 11th hour, which is the way it seems the Palisades Mall always does things, finally last week, on the very date when their response was due in the court, we learned that a stipulation had been drawn up that between both Clarkstown and the Palisades Center to finally dismiss the case.
Now, let me ask you this. This has no bearing on the tax cert litigation that's going on in the courts, right?
Right. No. That is still going to come to bear, and one will have to see, who prevails. I mean, they're still, saying that they're worth half of what they used to be worth. So we'll see what happens with that, and that'll sort of be another round. But for now, I can tell you that there was a big heave of relief in the halls of Clarkstown, and I think generally, in the community, that at least this lawsuit is behind everybody. Now what they're going to do going forward with this mall, I'm going to tease out and tell you that I will be putting out a story later this week that will be looking at some of the new prospective tenants. But right now, what we don't know is, if the mall has a bigger vision to reinvent itself and to be something other than, restaurants and stores and entertainment. They have not put anything forth, and they're sort of rather tight-lipped about it at this point. But the common wisdom is that malls just cannot continue to be what they were, and so that's really, I think, the story is what where is the future now with this mall, especially since the lawsuits behind us, the referendum is over. So there's this should be the new age, the new dawn for them to move forward. Assuming this assumes that they have the deep enough pockets, or whether there's an appetite to do something different with the mall, and that jives with what the town's planning and zoning board, what the zoning codes will allow, or so that's where the question mark is now. Is not what's going to happen anymore with the litigation or the referendum, but more along the lines of, is the mall just going to kind of creep along and be more of the same, or is there going to be some vision coming down the pike? And that's what we will stick a pin in, and that's what we will follow.
We had George Holman on this morning, as we do every Monday, and he was talking about a myriad of new businesses opening up in Clarkstown. He mentioned an auto dealership where the old Bob's Furniture was, and a few other things. But I mean, from George's perspective, business seems to be, I don't know if I should say thriving, but given the situation of our times, doing all right in Clarkstown.
Well, that's a rosy picture. I go out on the weekends, and I go up and down all of the commercial thoroughfares, and I look at all of the retail areas, and I mean there are a lot of for lease and for sale signs up and down 59, 303, 304, Little Tour Road. I mean there is a fair amount of vacancy, and I would doubt very, very much that most businesses are operating at capacity. And I think obviously the most obvious example, of this gutting is, of course, the shops at Nanuet. I mean, you don't have to be an economic scholar to see how gutted that mall is, and how badly that place needs reinventing. So, I think that the first and possibly even the second two rounds of stimulus have kept us afloat, but I don't think that there is any restaurant that is, for the most part, maybe a pizzeria, maybe a bagel shop, but most restaurants are not going to be able to match their revenue for 2019 in 2020. There's a lot of the hardship is there. I think it's just a question, and we are in a recession, and also Clarkstown and Rockland County at large. I mean, we are very dependent on retail revenue. So that's all fine and well for him to have that rosy outlook, but the truth is that we're in a major reset, and there are stores like in the Brixmore Shopping Center. There are stores like Barnes & Noble and Petco. Those large stores, they are just hanging on by a thread. So and a lot of what's replacing them is a lot of very down market dollar stores. So I think you have to you need some context to look at the economics in the county, and it's just too soon to know how, we're not out of this recession yet, and how we're going to come out of it remains to be seen. It's going to take more stimulus, it's going to take a lot of creativity, and it's going to take the vaccination to give people the confidence to get back out there. So I think that's more realistic.
Right. Well,
what do you think?
I don't know. I like when George is very optimistic. He has to be. He's a supervisor of the town, and I just hope it works out. And there are new business. He mentioned the Dunkin' Donuts. It's one family that owns several of them now in Clarkstown. They just opened up a new one. And I know there's small peas in a big pot, but
Well, we did a story last week about Piermont. Piermont lost 2 of its signature restaurants. Okay, it lost Olar and it lost Divine Pie. Mm-hmm. So, on the other hand, they do have a new Moroccan restaurant coming in. But nationally, we've lost over 100,000 restaurants.
yeah, but that's all a sign of the times because of the COVID.
That's right. That's right. So how many restaurants are and I know that actually Nyack has lost many restaurants as
Yep.
well. So how many, how much collective loss turns into something, bigger, or is it just you lose one and you gain one? And I think that's the formula here. Look, everything is changed. We have another story that talks about how much more flexible landlords are right now in terms of rents and incentives. Why? Because the office markets have emptied out.
Yeah.
So the underlying economy has changed. This pandemic has not just been something superficial. It is cut to the core of everything, and including the economy. So it's just too simplistic to say, well, we have this new store and that new store. It's not as simple as that. It's much more complex in terms of what has been lost, what is replacing that. How sustainable are those things? How many small businesses have lost their shirts? Speaking of shirts, we did a story about the Michael's Tuxedos. That closed.
Yeah, I know. Somebody I know was going to go there, and they said, "Whoops."
Yep. Well, we had a story about that last week too.
Yeah.
So it's very, very complicated, and it's also a very uneven kind of recession because I guess some takeout food places might be really actually maybe they're thriving. Maybe this is the moment of the takeout pizza. But what about the fancy sit-down dining in restaurants? That's been so badly hurt. So it's a wait and see.
All right, to be continued then. And if you want to see all the articles in the publication here, you just go to rcbizjournal.com. That's rcbizjournal.com. Tina, thanks a lot.
Okay, and don't forget to sign up and for our free daily e-blast.
Okay, you got it.
All right, bye.